All right, we are here on the Sports Animal YouTube, Facebook as well. I'm Preston Poole. That is Tyler Adams Teabag. Follow us on X at Preston Poole 405 at Tyler's Take. Follow the pod account as well at Unadvised Pod. We are here today. We're going to talk some ball. A couple big games here in state when it comes to OU and OSU. We also have to bring up Sunday Night Football. I know you don't want to, but we'll have to bring that up as well. Monday Night Football last night, and some of the other big games in college football, and some news from around the country. But Teabag, first of all, how are you doing, and what do you want to get into tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm getting my football withdrawals already. It hasn't even been 24 hours, and I'm already starting to scratch at the edge. I just don't know what to do on Tuesday and Wednesdays. Like, I'm actually glad we do this on Tuesdays because I get bored. I don't know.
We need some action. We need Maction bad.
Yeah. I always get pooped on by Curtis for liking Maction. He's like, you're a degenerate. It's like, yes, I am, but also, what else am I gonna do on a Tuesday night?
He sat down next to me at the OU game the other day up in the press box, and I was watching that Florida State and Memphis game. And he sat down. He's like, "You're either a degenerate or you've got money on this game." And I'm like, "No, I just want to see Florida State lose 3 in a row to start the season." So
he's an elitist when it comes to his football watching. I don't discriminate when it comes to football. Football is football.
It's football. Yeah, it's football.
But let's. I think we should start with definitely the story of the week. Brandon Whedon being inducted into the Hall of Honor at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean the biggest news, the biggest thing going on around the state for sure this week. There's no big shows coming into town Saturday. There's no big matchups.
we can get into it later on, but it'd be reminiscent to not mention the upcoming game in Norman, Oklahoma, and then also the game in Stillwater, Oklahoma this week. I think it's Preston. I think if you want to just say like outside of a Bedlam weekend, I think last year's Bedlam, the last one. I mean, just all the bedlams I've been for Big 12 championships, obviously, over the last 10, 15 years. I think this is the biggest weekend in the state of Oklahoma's football history, at least in my lifetime, where you got OU playing Tennessee in their first ever SEC game in Norman, top 15 matchup, the return of Josh Heupel to Norman, Oklahoma. And then in Stillwater, you got Oklahoma State and Utah, who are the two teams that everyone's saying, like, who's going to be the top dog of the conference. And these are the main two teams I feel like everyone brings up then, and then with Kansas State as well. Just going at it this weekend, literally 3 p.m., kick in Stillwater, 6:45 in Norman, just back-to-back, bang, bang. I think I don't think we can stress enough, like, how big of a weekend this is.
No, I mean, it's massive. And the first thing that I put on here, biggest game in Norman since I'm trying to think. Obviously, Ohio State came into town in 2018. No, that would have been 2016 that they came into town because
OU last year.
Yeah, and Oklahoma went up and beat them the next year in Columbus. But I mean, even then, I don't know if that game was as big as what this is, being the first game in the SEC. So I mean, probably going back to that Nebraska game in 2000, something like
Notre
that.
Dame 2012 was probably up there. That's the last time game day was in Norman. Outside game day was in Norman for COVID, but obviously it was COVID. There's no fans or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is what OU. Whenever OU went to the SEC, this was definitely just like one of those things where it is just a reality of it. And I know I'll make I'm an OSU guy. I know I'll probably make some OSU fans mad at saying this. Just that OU deserves, maybe even deserves isn't the right word, but you guys get what I'm trying to say. OU has almost like the right to be playing in games like this with the history they've had. I mean, and there would have been some big bedlams in Norman, but it just always felt like the big bedlams were in Stillwater. The 2021, 2023, 2015, where Norman OU came in and dominated. 2017, the Rudolph versus Baker showdown. I mean, it just kind of feels like a lot of the bigger bedlams have been in Stillwater. So OU fans have gotten to, have that experience in Norman to where it's like a big time bedlam game. Obviously, Texas is always on the road or on a neutral site. And then, I mean, you get your occasional K-States here and there and stuff. But, when you're OU, you go in there more times than not more times than not. We can get into this. This is the third time OU's been a home underdog since 1999. OU goes into every home game, as a favorite against usually team with lesser players. So this is, I mean, I'd say since the year 2000, this is a top 3, maybe 5. We'd have to go back and look at all of them.
Yeah.
But I'd probably say, just off the top of my head, top 3 game that's been played in Norman.
For sure, and you mentioned the home dog aspect of this. Right now, they're a 7-point dog to Tennessee. It opened at 7.5, so a little bit of money coming in on Oklahoma in this one. And I mean, if Vegas thinks this is going to be a touchdown game, I think that this will probably be a little bit more than a touchdown game. But I mean, look, the people in Vegas are smart for a reason. They set these lines for a reason. So Oklahoma a home dog for what you said, the third time since the year 2000, right? Or is it 99?
It was 2000 Nebraska. I think since 99. It was 2000 Nebraska, 2016 Ohio 16, and then this game.
Yeah. So,
which is remarkable.
Yeah, and crazy, but this is how good they've been the last, 24, 25 years since Bob Stoops came to Norman. The other big story, Josh Heupel, who was a part of that Nebraska game in 2000, won the national championship for Oklahoma. He comes back for the first time as a head coach or just any type of coach other than, being on the staff at Oklahoma or playing at Oklahoma. He comes back with the Tennessee Volunteers, and they look damn good right now. And it's just going to be, I don't even know how to really pick this game, because it's one of those things. Maybe Oklahoma's defense shows up and they're great, and they hold the Tennessee offense to 30 points, something like that. I don't know. I don't have a good grasp on this game right now.
Yeah, and then I mean, with the Josh Heupel aspect too, it's I have a few thoughts on this Josh Heupel thing. For starters, I mean, I always grew up knowing who Josh Heupel was, but I always really knew because I was born in '99. He was obviously quarterback in '99 and 2000. So I never knew Josh Heupel, the player. I always knew Josh Heupel, the OU offensive coordinator, and everyone calling for his job in 2014, which obviously we know what happened there.
Yeah,
and so that's always a Josh Heupel I knew. I never really knew kind of until maybe more SEC media days, and then kind of going into this week, just how impactful Josh Heupel was to get that thing going for Bob Stoops and company. Brent Venables was on staff, Mike Stoops, Mike Leach, Mark Mangino. I mean, that staff was just loaded with great coaches. But Kevin Wilson, and it can't be. I mean, what Josh Heupel meant, I never realized he was a Heisman runner-up in 2002, and everyone says he should have won it. I remember that famous, during the coin flip. I've always seen that growing up. I forgot the OU player's name. I'm sure someone in the comments can let us know. He was telling Chris Winkie while they're doing the coin flip. You got my boy's trophy. You got my boy's trophy. And so it really is, just when you talk about someone coming home, a lot of the times it can go bad. Like Scott Frost wasn't good. Josh Heupel came home to coach, but he wasn't the head coach, so Bob Stoops, Bob Stoops University and everything. But when was the last time a coach, was this much of a hero at their school and then came back as a head coach on the opposing sidelines? You don't see it a whole lot. The last one I can really think of, and I'm talking about big programs. I know there's people that played, Nick Saban played at, Kent State or whatever it was. And so I'm sure maybe he played a game there. But, I'm talking Power 4 big-time programs. The only one on the top of my mind I could think of is Steve Spurrier going back when he was the head coach at South Carolina and played in Florida.
Yeah.
But and then some side notes on this Josh Heupel thing is, one, if he gets a chance, he's going to run to score as much as he can. Like, if Tennessee comes out as dominating the game, he's not going to let his foot off the gas. And two,
and he shouldn't.
I'm not the biggest believer in the bulletin board material. I think it helps. I think it helps motivate, but I think you have to go out, you have to practice well, you have to play well, you have to execute. I don't think just because, there's something on the bulletin board, just means you're going to play better. I think it helps, getting yourself to prepare better. It gives you that little burst of motivation, but I'm not all for it. But Preston, every single – Josh Heupel's not saying it, but every single Tennessee coach has been playing the Bob Stoops press conference with them firing him. What the fans used to say about him, saying, this team fired your coach. Because, they all love Josh Heupel. I mean, Josh Heupel, he's known to be like, his players love him and stuff. So, they want to go out and fight for him. And so that's just an extra stuff of motivation they have tonight. So that storyline to me is just fascinating altogether. I can't wait to see what it looks like Saturday night.
And there's a bizarro world, T-Bag, where in 2014, Baker Mayfield is eligible to play for Oklahoma. He's the starting quarterback. And if that happens, Josh Heupel's the head coach at Oklahoma right now.
That's it. Yeah. I never really thought about that. I remember I remember Josh Heupel. This is one of the weird few memories I have of Josh Heupel was the 2014 spring game right before his last season. He talked about how much Baker Mayfield was lighting it up and how much the whole team loved him. So I remember we all remember Baker Mayfield from Texas Tech. Like, he came in those first 6 games or whatever it was and just completely, just was unreal before getting benched because he had like a minor injury. This Texas Tech screwed the coach on that one. But I just remember him talking about Baker Mayfield. But yeah, there is definitely a alternate universe somewhere out there where Josh Heupel is a head coach of the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah, because the NCAA grants Baker Mayfield eligibility. If you think about that practice squad and players that were supposed to be on the team, obviously we know what happened with Joe Mixon. He was supposed to be on the team that year. Obviously was not allowed for good reason. But on the practice squad, Dorial Green Beckham was a wide receiver for that practice squad. He was a 5-star wide receiver. Yeah, Baker Mayfield was the quarterback of that practice squad. So, yeah, definitely in bizarro world where all that stuff, works out the right way. Oklahoma probably has a decent offense that year. And they never have to hire Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley never becomes a head coach. Bob Stoops retires after the 16th season, and they hand the keys over to Josh Heupel because, you got to think that he would have had a pretty decent offense with all the players and granted, Lincoln Riley, great offensive recruiter, so maybe some of those guys wouldn't have came in. But yeah, it's definitely a thing that, could have happened that we don't really talk about much, which is pretty crazy. So,
too, real quick, that like Josh Heupel, his dream ever since he won an national, ever since he put on an OU jersey, was probably to be the head Bob Stoops' successor one day. Like,
oh yeah,
that's probably pretty clear to everyone that is what he wanted to do. And it's Carey talked about it this morning. It's one of those things where it's kind of like a bittersweet thing. It didn't work out for him because it's like it would have just been storybook if he came in and won OU national championship as a coach, or just had great success as a coach. Even if he was just a coach for 10 years, they never won a national championship, but they were playing at an elite level for 10 years. And he goes down as just a total Oklahoma legend. But the sweet part of it is like it really worked out for him. He switched up he did on offense. He kind of went away from the air raid to kind of more like the Art Briles, Jeff Levy system. And it really did end up working out for him because now he's making $9.5 million at Tennessee.
Yeah, and he's on top of the world
with the great NIL funds. So yes, it worked out great for him. I'm sure if you put a true serum in him, he probably would have said he wishes it would have worked out different, but he's probably pretty content of where he's at.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to kind of just the game in general, my first thoughts are if the Oklahoma offense comes out and plays like they did against Houston or the second half last weekend against Tulane, it's going to be a really short game.
Yeah.
It's going to be Tennessee's going to be up by 14-21 in the first quarter, so first half for sure,
Tyler Barrett, we're coming on the defensive end. Amari Thomas, defensive tackle. Then they got that one stud. I think he's number 5, maybe. What's his name? James. Try to look it up real quick. James Pierce.
Yeah.
James Pierce. They got an elite defense, and also just a really good offense as well. My computer is free. Can you hear me?
I actually have some efficiency numbers here for you from that SEC podcast. Some great guys over there, Cousin Mike and Cousin Shane. So right now, pass offense efficiency, Tennessee ranks 31st in the country. Oklahoma ranks 111th. Pass defense efficiency, 41 for Tennessee, 46 for Oklahoma. So pretty similar there on the pass defense for both teams. Rush offense efficiency, 18 for Tennessee, 43 for Oklahoma. Rush defense efficiency, 2 for Tennessee, 9 for Oklahoma. So these defenses are somewhat similar when it comes to their ability to stop the run and the pass. Third down offense, fourth down offense, number 5 for Tennessee, number 94 for Oklahoma. So that's where you see the massive difference. And then third and fourth down defense for Oklahoma, or excuse me, Tennessee is number 10 in the country. Oklahoma is 109th, which I didn't realize that. I thought they had been pretty good on those downs. So defensive wise, third and fourth down is really the biggest thing separating these two defenses, and then these two offenses couldn't be more further apart.
If you just look at this game on paper, you got to take Tennessee, and Tennessee probably minus the points. I mean, there is some really big gaps when you look at this on paper. If you're an OU fan, I don't think you can really convince yourself much of different than that. But what I will say is that doesn't just mean OU is going to win, because there's two things, Preston. Freshman quarterback on the road, and what will be the most hostile game Norman's had in God knows how long.
And I talked so much crap last week about people not showing up. They will show up this weekend, and they will be loud.
If a student leaves at halftime, he should actually be expelled from the university.
Yes.
Unless it's a blowout. If it's within 17 to 20 points,
your ass better be in the
20
seat.
points or closer. 20 points or closer.
Yeah.
Either way, you do not leave that game.
Yeah.
And if you do, you should be expelled. You should be expelled from the university. But the second point, so freshman quarterback coming on the road, it's college football. Yeah. Second point is it's college football.
It's really as simple as that, honestly.
Like, it's college football. It is not going to be shocking. We act like it's OU going against the Kansas City Chiefs or something.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I do think Tennessee is going to win. I'm probably going to stay away from the point spread, but I probably would lay the points on Tennessee if I were to bet it. But that doesn't mean that it's just all right. Move on to Auburn next week. Yeah. This one's over. It's a freshman quarterback coming on the road. Who knows? He might be the worst road quarterback we've ever seen. We don't know. And then, like I said, it's college football. Nope. Anything can happen in college football. Anyone can beat anyone in college football. We've seen.
We saw that a couple of weeks ago with Notre Dame and Northern Illinois. So
yeah,
Kevin Garnett said, anything is possible. So we will see. Another thing when it comes to offense, Jackson Arnold can't be the only one to have success in the run game. You got to have the running backs. I mean, and it's going to be tough with that defensive line.
Yeah,
but you got to get something on the ground with the backs, because you can't just rely on Jackson Arnold. And if they can't get if they can't get the running backs going, I would like to see maybe a 2 quarterback package in there. Put Michael Hawkins in there and let him run the ball. Just muck it up and make it disgusting. And Tennessee have no clue what's going on, because you might have to win the football game.
Yeah. And I mean, like you just said, with the Tennessee's defensive line, OU's offensive line, like that's what separates this game for me the most.
Yeah.
Is Tennessee has a really good front seven, maybe one of the best, maybe the best in college football. It's definitely up there as one of the best. And I don't think OU's offensive line is just any good right now. I mean,
they're not. They're not.
I think we all noticed at the Temple game whenever Temple was getting pressure on Arnold and sacking them and getting hits in the backfield and stuff. Then we obviously kind of saw it in the Houston game and a little bit in the Tulane game. I mean, it's improved a little. It was good in that first half versus Tulane, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough for OU to be able to score consistently. And I think OU's defense will stop Tulane. I think it's going to be a close first half game. I think it's going to be kind of the second half whenever Tennessee can really kind of start getting into it, because I think OU's defense is going to naturally wear down eventually.
And I mean that's where we've seen the defense kind of slip up a little bit anyways so far this season, is just later in the games where they're just tired because the offense can't pull their weight on the field. The last point on offense, well, I should say Nick Anderson expected back this week for the Sooners at wide receiver. So that's massive news. Good to get another body there. I mean, because they were playing 2 freshmen last week.
You think Jackson Arnold was supposed to really leak that out? Because he kind of just put that out to the media yesterday and was like, oh, okay. Because
but
well, they have to put up the injury reports.
yeah, I
Never
was gonna
mind.
say this is the first week of injury
Yeah,
reports, so that was gonna come out anyways. So
yeah,
should he have said it yesterday? Probably not, but I mean the injury reports are gonna come out tomorrow, I think, anyways. So
yeah.
that
I
that
forgot
wouldn't
about
have
the injury
mattered too
reports.
much. But the last point on offense, other than Nick Anderson coming back, which I think is probably going to be a big deal for Oklahoma, because I think he's a deep threat that they can definitely use. This is going to be the biggest challenge for the offensive line, which is scary as hell if you're an Oklahoma fan.
Yeah, I mean we've been that's kind of been the talking point. It's just, can this offensive line just do? They're not going to stop them. They're not, like,
Yeah,
that's, even if we wins a game, they're not just going to be able to stop them all game. They're going to have to just work around it. They're going to have to
yeah,
find a way to figure it the bleep out and work around it. That's all you got to do. I don't know what
that's
it is. I'm
yeah,
not a coach. I don't know. Like, there's ideas, like you said, with the two quarterback, maybe, or did more quick passes and maybe more outside run game. Who knows? But you're gonna have to figure something out, because you can't just go man on man with that front seven right there and expect to win the battles.
yeah. If they do end up rolling out a two quarterback system, we'll know that they're secretly watching this somehow because that would be absolutely insane. So,
Yeah. What's up, Coach
um,
Luttrell?
yeah. Uh, biggest test for the defense too, which
Yeah.
I don't think is as big a deal because I do if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I have way more trust in the defense, which is crazy to say right now in the year 2024. Because of the last 10 years that has been the defense at the University of Oklahoma. It's crazy to say that, but you got to trust your defense a whole hell of a lot more than that offense.
Defense is gonna have to make plays. They're gonna have to force a couple turnovers in order for you to win this game, and hell, they might even have to score a touchdown.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of things are going to have to go right for you this weekend, and I think the
a
defense is
lot.
going to have to play. I mean, they're not going to play a perfect game because Tennessee is going to
Yeah,
score. They're too good not to score. It's just OU, whenever they need to stop, they're going to have to get that stop, and they're going to have to find a way to get probably two turnovers.
yeah. And the crazy part is if Oklahoma does play a perfect game on defense, I think that they win the game by like 3 points and that's it.
Yeah,
Which you would
if you're to tell me right now, like OU, like if football God was to come down and be like, OU plays a perfect defensive game on Saturday, what's the final score? I'll say 23-20. I don't know who wins, but 23-20.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like
I,
I
I
think
think
I
that's
think that's the
perfect.
perfect game is OU holding them to like 20 to 24 points or something like that.
Yeah. If they're able to do that, they have a great shot at winning the game. If it gets over 25 to 30 points, it's
I say over the
not gonna look good.
27 probably
Yeah.
in that ballpark. If it's
Yeah.
over that, then it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Danny Stutzman, I don't know if he called out the fans, but he said
Kinda,
show up.
yeah.
Basically is what he said, show up and be loud, which
Uh,
I completely agree.
yeah, and then he made the Bob Stoops reference in there for the 2008 Texas Tech. We didn't mention that one. 2008 Texas Tech jump around
Yeah,
game. That's
yeah.
up there. That's up there. Number 5 versus number 2, I think it was. Um, but so Bob Stoops kind of called out the fans before that game, saying, we need you guys to be more loud. And so Danny Stetson kind of made a Bob Stoops reference. Coach Stoops, and it's cool. Coach Stoops is an old man, but he's a Gen Xer on the X.
Yeah.
Use the wrong form of here, which I've used a lot.
We'll
He
just
used
chalk that up to autocorrect.
HERE. He used HERE instead of HEAR. I didn't notice it at first, and then I saw the famous graphic where your degree is with that one, Preston. It
Yeah.
was when OU was playing Louisiana Tech, and it says your degree is within reach, and it's a apostrophe RE. So someone quote tweeted with that. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, Coach, just yeah, I'm terrible at it. I'm terrible at it. I don't proofread anything.
I don't either. I just fire
But if it's a big
it.
tweet, you got to proofread it.
Yes. Completely agree. And then last thing on this game, since we've exhausted about everything, spent 20 minutes, 25 minutes on it so far. Who do you think the guest picker is going to be for game day? I've got a couple of options. I think the leading candidate for me is Trey Young, since he's been at the last couple of
Yeah.
games. Maybe we see Chet Holmgren, maybe. Thunder player. He's been at a game. I think he went to the Houston game. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just throwing it out there. Blake Griffin comes to mind. He's been a guest
He'd be
picker
great.
before on game day, but you're not going to have the guys like Baker and all them because they're playing on Sunday. So who do you have in mind? Someone on Facebook says Jim Ross. Who do you have in mind for a guest picker?
I think so. I just don't know. I think it's going to be Trae Young.
Yeah.
What I think ESPN's first call is, and what I think they should do, it should be Bob Stoops.
Yes.
Because he knows this entire story, with Josh Heupel, OU, everything.
He didn't even cross my mind to be a pick for this.
And he's obviously, outside Barry Switzer, it's Bob Stoops is, second in line.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about Kings of Oklahoma. And so I think he's up there. I just don't know if Bob will want to do it because he's already put out, he kind of wants to stay away from the media this week, which I totally get. That was a really tough decision he had to make with Heupel. That's his guy. Without Heupel, Bob still would have been a great coach. He would have had great success, but does he have the immediate success he has without Josh Heupel? I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not. Josh Heupel is a great quarterback. So I don't think it will be. So I'm going to go ahead and say I think it's going to be Trae Young.
Yeah, Derek on Facebook says Patty Gasso. I don't think it'll be Patty Gasso, but it wouldn't surprise me if you see like a package run during game day with like Patty Gasso. It wouldn't surprise me if you see one with Bob Stoops as well run during game day where they, sit down for like an interview or something like that. Because, this is the first, obviously the very first game in the SEC for Oklahoma, but this is, for a bunch of the rest of the SEC, this is, the first introduction to Oklahoma in a big way for, a bunch of the SEC. So it wouldn't surprise me if you saw some of that stuff on Saturday. I know I'll for sure be up and watching that and might throw something on the smoker on Saturday. Who knows? All right, let's get into the other big time matchup up in Stillwater. Oklahoma State taking on Utah right now. Utah 2-point favorite. So both state schools here going to be dogs heading into the game. Maybe that Oklahoma State line shifts a little bit. It's already came down from 2.5 to 2. So, I'll let you have the floor. What are your thoughts on the game?
Kind of all over the place, like 1 second I'm confident, the next I'm like, I don't know. I'm excited. I went to dinner with my mom and dad today, or lunch with my mom and dad. And my mom is just negative Nancy with every sports team. The Thunder go down 4-0 in a playoff game. She's like, it's over. Shay's gonna leave. That's just kind of how she is. So my mom can be very negative Nancy.
She's a very nice lady too. She doesn't strike me as just a complete hater when it comes to sports.
I take my dad is very calm when it comes to sports, and my mom is not. And I kind of can get after it, take for my mom a lot of the times. But with this game, I was telling her, I was like, these are kind of the games you look for. You only get one game every other year or so where you're like, a lot of times it's Bedlam for OSU or Texas or, Arkansas coming, just some bigger games. And I was like, this is kind of the game, where OSU fans, ever since Utah joined the Big 12, was like, I can't play Utah. Then the schedule comes out and they get them at home in week 4. Yeah. So I am pumped for this game. I'm just super excited. I think Stillwater is going to be an unreal atmosphere on Saturday. I think 3 p.m. kickoff. I have a take, Preston, real quick. 2:30 kickoff's the best kickoff if you're a home team. You still get all morning and early afternoon tailgate. Yeah. So 11 a.m. sucks. Then if it's 6 p.m., it's great. It's fun. You have a great party all day. But then by the time the game's over, you're exhausted. You're ready to go home. If you're a college student, the night game's great because you don't have to go anywhere. If you have to drive back home, it's terrible. Especially to leave Stillwater is not easy after a game because it's not a big town. So I think 3 p.m. perfect kickoff.
Well, unless they don't want to go up against the game in Norman either, because
no.
all eyes are going to be on that game because that's one of the biggest matchups outside of the game going on in Norman.
Yeah. So I think Stillwater is just going to be absolutely electric. We got Cam Rising coming to town. He sounds like he's going to play. One of their wide receivers last night came out and said, he's playing. He has a laceration on his throwing hand. So I think he'll be fine. I mean, I don't think that should bother him in a big time game, depending how bad it is. I mean, quarterbacks have played with that before, and it doesn't really seem. Will it affect maybe a throw or two? Sure. I don't think it's going to affect the difference of the game.
Throw a glove on it and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Rising's a football guy. He'll be A-okay. And then stopping like their running back, Jaquinding Jackson. I mean, he's a baller. They got the 2 tight end set. So it's going to be just kind of a different game. And I think this is also another great coaching storyline. Kyle Whittingham versus Mike Gundy. I mean, if you did blind resume on Kyle Whittingham or Mike Gundy, and you said, like, who's the better coach? Like, if someone just had to pick, what coach they would take,
it'd be like a wash.
I think it'd be like a 50-50, split, because Kyle Whittingham, yes, he has 2 Pac-12 titles compared to Mike Gundy's 1, and he's been in the conference less. So he has that on Gundy. But Gundy has more, top 25 wins, more, New Year's 6 wins, more New Year's 6 appearances. I think he has more wins altogether. More, I'm just being a Mike Gundy propaganda guy right now. I would take Mike Gundy. I think his resume is better. The only thing Kyle Whittingham has on him is conference championships. And Preston, let's be real. If Oklahoma State was playing in the Pac-12 under the Mike Gundy tenure, I think he'd have probably 2 conference championships as well. Yeah. OU was heavily in the way of Mike Gundy. A lot of the time. So he would have gotten to avoid that. But altogether, I'm stoked for this game. I lean OSU. It's going to dictate how I feel going forward, because I'm not super confident in Kansas State going to Manhattan right after this game. So I lean OSU right now, but I think it's going to come down to Alan Bowman. I think the running game is still going to struggle to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's bad. Don't get me wrong; it's not good. I'm disappointed because I was excited to watch Ollie, try to do what he did again last season. We're not getting that right now. I mean, still a lot of season left, and I think it is disappointing how the offensive line isn't run blocking the way it should be. But when you go back and kind of watch the tape, and Gundy pointed this out yesterday, the whole defense is watching what Ollie Gordon does. So they're so keyed in on him. It'll leave a Taylor Stretchen wide open for a 75-yard touchdown, or just Sean Stribling open for a 25-yard gain. So he's still making a heavy impact. So I think it's as simple as this, Preston. If the defense steps up when they need to, which they've been doing for the last 5 years, outside of 2020 and 2021, they haven't been a great defense. But even in 2022, 2023, and this season so far, they haven't been that good. But when they've had to step up, they've been playing. They've stepped up and made the stops when they've had to. So if Alan Bowman comes in and plays really good, just good, doesn't turn it over, just plays good, does what he needs to do, and the defense steps up when they have to, especially late in game, I think OSU comes out with the victory.
Yeah, Derek on Facebook says bend don't break is what he is looking for out of the Oklahoma State defense.
It is the definition of a bend don't break defense.
Yeah, Harry on YouTube, Preston, you going to game day? I am staying the hell out of Norman on Saturday because once you get down there, you ain't gonna be able to leave in a hurry. So
it's gonna be legit Fansville. Like Brian Bosworth might as well put on like a police uniform and be the sheriff.
Yeah, that was another someone in the chat said Boz as the celebrity guest picker for game day. So, but yeah, I went to game day when Notre Dame was in town. I got on TV. I did all that. I had my fun. My sign, which got taken away before the main show started because it was so good. I forget who the quarterback was. It was Everett Golson was the quarterback for Notre Dame. And I put on my sign. I said, "Hey, Golson, I made your girlfriend scream Boomer Sooner last night." They took my sign away. So
I got my sign taken away. I think it was either 2008 or 2010. I can't remember which bedlam. But I was in elementary school, and I took a sign to my dad took me up to game day, and I think it was 2008, and it was first. I think it was still game day's first time ever being in Stillwater, and so me and my dad took me, and we made a sign that said ESPN. Every Sooner picks noses. Literally the most harmless sign out there. I'm 9 years old holding this sign, and they took it away from me. And
it's so dumb.
I mean, it's woke ESPN. They were woke before woke existed.
Yes, and then when I got mine taken away, it was what, 2013. Obviously, that's when they did like a pre-show with some different hosts. So obviously, we got down there at like, I don't know, 5:30 in the morning to get like a good spot. We get a good spot. They start the show. I put my sign up. The producer, or the showrunner, comes up to me and is like, "Hey man, great sign, but I got to take it." And I'm like, "Dude, the big show hasn't even started yet." Like, and then like now I see all these signs and I'm like, dude, mine would not have gotten taken. I'm still mad about that. So that's
Yeah.
probably adds into why I'm not going. But yeah, I do not feel like messing with Norman on Saturday.
I will not get a college game day again until, if I ever have a son, that'll be the next time I
Yeah,
ever go to a college game day.
it's one of those things where it's fun, like I guess when you're younger, like maybe in college or younger than that. Once you get out of college, it's like I got to get up super early. I got to go down there, get a spot. I don't feel like doing that. I'll get up at 8 a.m.
And a
I'll
lot of
pop
it's
it
just
on.
standing, and it's not the fun.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah, Cheryl is the one that said the boss. So shout out to her. She's one of our biggest fantasy football nuts. She's always sending us fantasy football questions and stuff like that. So shout out to Cheryl. Harry also says biggest road test next weekend: OU at Auburn or Oklahoma State at Kansas State. I say Oklahoma State at Kansas State.
Probably because even if OSU loses this weekend, if they win that game, they're right back in the driver's seat, or
Yeah.
maybe even the passenger seat. I mean, he's said to be one of the top two. They're right back in the front seat of the car. So yeah, I'd probably say OSU. I think if OU was playing a bigger opponent, it would be OU, but I still think Auburn's all too good right
Auburn
now.
just, before the season, maybe I would have said Auburn, but Auburn just stinks this year.
Yeah.
So
I know. I was talking to someone the other day, and they're talking about OU's SEC schedule. Like, Auburn game is not tough, and I was like, or not easy, and I was like, yeah, it's not easy. It's going on the road to Auburn, but if Cal can beat Auburn by 2 scores on the road, OU should be able to as well.
yeah, for sure. While we're on Oklahoma State still, Derek says, I feel like Stribling and Owens are so underrated. Do you think either will play in the NFL?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I think Stribling is
They've-
definitely this year's working his way into definitely being a draft pick.
I think Stribling for sure. I think Owens has the ability. He has the physical abilities to do so as well. I mean, I think if we're looking up in next year, 2 years, whatever. I know Presley leaves. Stribling can come back. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, kind of depending on where his draft stock is and his NIL package. So you guys have to put that in consideration now.
Yeah.
And then Owens, I think, can come back as well. But I wouldn't be shocked, Preston, for sitting here in 2 years and Brendan Presley, DeJon Stribling, Rashad Owens are all NFL wide receivers. I think OSU's wide receiver core right now is elite.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. All right, let's get into this Mike Gundy press conference yesterday, where he, first of all, I don't know who, I think it might have been like Jenny Carlson or something like that. We'll set the scene first. They're doing a press conference, and there's the soda cooler that's right next to him that's just making an obnoxious amount of noise. I mean, it sounds like a generator just kicked on and during the press conference. So Mike Gundy was like, "Can y'all even hear?" I mean, so he goes over. I want to say it was Jenny Carlson was like, "Don't let it fall on you," which smart, because there's a lot of people that die from the soda machines every year. So smart there.
They also would have killed Curtis too.
Yes,
right
yeah.
there.
And then a friend of the show, Joe Masada, was on the clip. I talked to him yesterday for Matt Pinto's show, and I called him like, "Hey man, he couldn't help Mike Gundy out move that soda machine." And he was like, "Yeah, I look pretty bad in that video." And so Mike Gundy opens it up. They lean it forward. They get it unplugged, and all is back to normal. But that's just so Mike Gundy. Seeing him, during the middle of a press conference, he's in the middle of answering a question. He's like, "You know what? Let's unplug that soda machine real quick so it's not making so much noise."
The best still shot was of another friend of the sports animal, Marshall Scott, of Pistols Firing. So he was just standing there, just kind of like, you can't.
Yeah, I did see that.
He's just kind of like standing there. He's got the funniest look. Marshall's a really funny guy. If you've ever met Marshall, he is super funny. He's really funny online too. And so he's just kind of standing there, and Marshall just kind of knows. And so there's just been all these memes. So there's one like where someone photoshopped, It's not really
You can't see. Your phone's a little too low. There it goes. Okay, yeah.
It says me pretending. It's Mike Gundy. Me pretending like I'm looking at the beer selection. And it says my buddy knowing I'm just going to end up with a 30 rack of Bush, and it's Marshall. There's been some great shout out.
He
Gift
looked
Hannon.
like your dad is working on your car, and like you're just sitting there, holding the flashlight for him, or just sitting there watching him do it. That's what it looked like.
And Mike Gundy too just loved that. Like he was just like, oh, that's a whatever, it's going out. And then he's just like, how can we fix this? Mike Gundy just he loves just being a handy man.
And I guarantee you he plugged it right back in before he walked out. So
I know where Mike Gundy's house is in Stillwater. Brag, I've been to it, hung out there. But he doesn't have any neighbors because he lives on a bunch of land. But if he did have neighbors, I feel like he'd be the best neighbor to ever exist.
Oh yeah, you
just call him, be like, Mike, I can't figure this out. He's like, all right, I'm right there. He comes over with his golf cart and a Coors Light or something.
I'm starting to warm up to Mike Gundy and all his antics. I think they're absolutely hilarious.
He's the best. Yes. And like he says 1,000 times, he's like, I only get in trouble because I'm honest, and you have to appreciate that. You can agree with him, you can disagree with him. He's just telling you what he thinks.
100%. I think he's awesome. So shout out Mike Gundy and all that. Other things going on in Stillwater. Brandon Whedon getting inducted into the Hall of Honor. I just saw this earlier. I didn't really know what it meant. You kind of explained it a little bit to me. So. But pretty cool to see Brandon Whedon getting honored after his 2 seasons there at Oklahoma State. Definitely should have won a national championship. What year was that? 2011. Definitely should have won a national championship that year. So shout out Brandon Whedon.
I still get sick when I think about that. I've said this before. I think me and you have talked about this before, especially with the 12-team playoff now. I mean, never say never, because what if Oklahoma State's next coach they hire is the next Nick Saban? Now, he wouldn't stay there for 20 years or something. I'm not saying that. But what if he can come in and win a national championship in 3 years? Sure. I'm not going to hold much faith in that. But so never say never. But I'm fairly confident saying that was OSU's biggest and probably only opportunity to get a national title. And I didn't want to say they blew it because it's hard to go undefeated. So, yes, technically they blew it. So I don't want to say they blew it. I think it was just more so if there was a 4-team playoff, they were right there. I mean, it was right before the 4-team playoff, and it was 2 years before the 4-team playoff started. And that's really Oklahoma State and Stanford both is really what catapulted. And I've always had this take. I think Oklahoma State and Stanford in that Fiesta Bowl were the 2 best teams in the country playing. I think those offenses were elite, filled with NFL talent everywhere. And I think those defenses, did they give up points? Yes, but the SEC was also still playing under center, hand the ball off up the middle. Offense.
Yeah, they wouldn't have ran the score up on Oklahoma State or Stanford, Alabama or LSU.
If Oklahoma State played LSU in that national championship, LSU's not getting 20 points. Their offense was not that good, and Oklahoma State had a really good offense. They beat 6 NFL quarterbacks that year, and I think Oklahoma State could have gotten 21 in that LSU defense. The offense was that good. That's a side rant. It is what it is. It is what it is.
No, hey, look, that is my squib kick in the Rose Bowl and my DeMarco Murray being out in 2008. So that's
the hope. Like, Preston, okay, let's say you're on your deathbed and you're 85 years old. From now until then, I think OU is going to get a national championship.
Yeah. I would.
I don't think OSU is going to get one. That's what I'm saying. Like, that was
like you said earlier, though, T-Bag, it's college football. You never know, all right?
I think if there's still a 14 playoff, I'd have more hope. But I think with the 12-team playoff, I still think OSU will ever have
this would be so hard,
the depth just to go in and win 3 or 4 playoff games, whatever they need to. I just don't think that's in the weeds. But that is what makes college football the best, Preston, is I get myself worked up. 85% of the fan base is out there. 85% of them. Probably even more so. It's probably like 95% of the fan base is on it just a single year. But if you're talking like a 10-year stretch, it's about 80 to 85%. We get ourselves all hyped up and worked up, knowing damn well we're not going to win the national championship.
Yes.
Like I get so hyped up, I get so worked up, I get so excited about Oklahoma State football. And I'm like, let's win the Big 12 and maybe try to win a playoff game and call it a season. Like knowing it's going to end in disappointment at one point or another. That's what makes it so unique and so weird and so awesome.
Yes, for sure. And then Cheryl on YouTube. When do we do fantasy therapy session? We'll do
Thursday.
fantasy
I have
on
a
Thursday.
big
Yes.
I need to let some things go.
So hop in the
Every
chat on
injury
Thursday.
you
Yeah.
saw, I have a player from I have that player.
I'm pretty damn close to it as well. All right, let's move on to some of the other games going on in college football. Only two other ranked matchups this weekend: USC at Michigan, Illinois at Nebraska. And either of those games do anything for you?
Well, USC Michigan, won't watch a second of. So I'll be in Boone Pickens Stadium.
Yeah.
I think USC is going to go in there and win. I don't think Michigan's any good at all. Like I just don't. I think their offense is terrible. I think USC will go in there and win. Illinois, Nebraska, I'm actually excited for.
Friday night
game. They're both ranked. I think Illinois, they're a boring, frisky team. And I'm excited to see, I haven't really been able to sit down and watch Nebraska a whole lot this year. I saw a little bit of that Colorado game, but by the time I turned it on, it was 28-0. So I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. So I'm kind of excited to watch Nebraska. So yeah, that one I'm excited for, to watch Patrick Mahomes, clone and Dylan Raiola come out. So also, did you see his quote yesterday saying he's had that same haircut since he was like in the 7th grade?
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes rookie season. Yeah,
which was 6 years ago when Patrick Mahomes was in his second year, actually.
Yeah,
the first year starting. So
like you're not an old man, all right, dude. Like you're young. You're 18.
If you said that, if you were a senior in college and said that, but, oh, okay, that makes sense, because that would have been like 2014, 2015. But no, like you're talking 2018 when Patrick Mahomes was playing Brady in the AFC Championship game. Like, come on. So he didn't use a right choice of words right there. But yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Kindergarten, yeah, it should say. I'll be doing a high school game, so I won't be able to watch that Nebraska game, but I'll go back and watch the highlights for sure on that. Other news in college football, I mean, one of the smarter moves, I think, Tennessee is going to start adding a 10% talent fee to ticket sales. And that money's going to go towards NIL. You're going to see a lot of schools start doing this.
Yeah, I
think all of them should.
Well, so I was talking to my dad today about this when we were at lunch, because I saw the news, and so I brought it up. I was like, whoa. I think all the big schools are going to start doing this, because they're also raising ticket prices a little too. I think like 4% or something. They're raising their ticket prices.
I think 4.5%.
4.5%. Yeah. And I don't think, maybe OSU isn't the best example, although I don't think they can necessarily do it. I don't think teams like OSU, and then even a step below OSU, because I think OSU is just kind of right on that verge of like maybe they could do it and get away with it, but a lot of teams couldn't. Yeah. I don't think you can just up your ticket sales and expect to keep selling out. And then also, when you have SEC, TV revenue coming in, it's probably a little bit easier to give up that 10% compared to when you're a school like Oklahoma State. Every dollar matters in this landscape of college football. It's like Oklahoma State's not making any money. They're making really good money. They're making fantastic money. But when you're talking in comparison to some of these other teams, it's tough. So I think, yes, I do think the majority of like the SEC and big-time Big Ten schools will do this. I just don't know if we'll see it all around college football, because I think they could see more of a decline in ticket sales just kind of from that.
I haven't bought tickets to like an OU game in a while. I just have them like given to me and I just go. There are a lot of tickets for sale down in Norman right now. And the cheapest ticket you can get into the stadium with $160. So SEC ticket prices, and that's up by the trash can up at the top of the stadium for that one. So
Derek makes a good point too. NCAA allows a 10% ticket increase, but not QR codes. That's some bull. Yeah. What?
It's insane. By the way, I've seen a million times more QR codes in the last month or two since Oklahoma State announced that than I did previously. So maybe they were onto something, because I just keep seeing QR codes left and right.
There's one person at the NCAA that's just like has blackmail in the NCAA. And he's like, just let me keep working here and let me ruin Oklahoma State as much as I can. Like, okay, yeah. Whatever.
Another story, Quinn Ewers is injured. I don't know if I think he'll probably sit out against UTSA. Obviously, I don't think that's going to be much, but
Preston, you know what? No, I gotta, it'd be a real shame, Preston.
What's that?
A real shame is if Arch Manning just comes in and lights it up, and then Quinn Ewers doesn't look nearly Quinn Ewers is good. He is good. We know that.
Yeah.
But Arch Manning comes in and lights it up, and Quinn Ewers maybe throws a couple interceptions in one game when they maybe lose or something. I don't know, just something like that. And then there's a quarterback controversy, and we know how big distractions can get in Austin, Texas in football. It'd be a real shame if Texas has one of the best teams they've had in the last 20 years, and then there's maybe a little drama. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would hate to see that happen. I would just hate it.
Look, I'm probably 100% wrong on this. They're going to slip up somewhere, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not good. It's so hard to go undefeated.
That's what I was thinking. I just, wasn't sure. Derek says, if that happens, does Quinn still go to the draft or staying up? Yeah, Quinn's gone. He's going to the draft. He's not transferring. He's already made his money.
$5 million guaranteed to go transfer.
That's true. Yeah, but I don't think anyone's gonna do that. So
I'm with you.
All right, let's go ahead and rip this Band-Aid off real quick. It's gonna hurt a little bit, but let's get into the NFL and let's get into the things that happened Sunday night. Sunday Night Football in Houston, Texans. The Chicago Bears taking on the Texans. Bears lose 13-19. What are your thoughts?
I'm okay. And I feel like I have to say I'm okay because, Preston, you know that you're an NFL guy. You've been following the NFL forever. You know the Bears have just been punching bags when it comes to quarterbacks. I have gotten the beaten out of me, absolute beaten out of me since Jay Cutler left.
Yeah,
I get a guy, he makes one good pass, bam, I'm punched in the face and upper jawed, and then kicked in the gut, air knocked out of me in fetal position, just getting stomped on. And then they pick me up and they say, "No, here's your new friend. This guy's gonna treat you right." And then he treats me nice. We have a fun drive to the restaurant. When we get to the restaurant for a good little,
you get jumped out.
Hang out. I get jumped when I get out of the car. And that's what it feels like right now. That's what it feels like. The only difference in this, offensive line is terrible.
7 sacks, dude. How does that happen?
The worst take I have had this football season yet is telling everyone, the Bears' offensive line is not great, but it's not as bad as people are making. No, it might be the worst offensive line in the NFL. They're ass. Terrible. Awful.
Yeah.
I will say this. The Bears had a chance to go down and win that game.
They only lost by a touchdown.
6. Yeah, and they had the ball back. They had a chance to go score and win. Did they? No. Did Caleb look like crap in the second half? Yes. Did he look better in the first half though? Yes. So I'm mixed emotions. I'm shaking like I'm like a scared dog. I'm like a puppy that's been out in the streets or something that then finds it, it's being nice. And they want to trust it. They want to trust that human. But the dog's shaking. It's I don't know what to do. That's me right now. I'm shaking. And I'm just am I going to be okay? Am I not going to be okay? But it's week 2. We can't ask too much out of Caleb yet. We just can't. He's week 2. All offenses around the league are struggling right now. So right now I'm okay. But to say I'm shaking and I'm nervous, to say I'm not shaking and nervous, I'd be lying. But for now, I'm okay. But this thing could go down fast.
And we'll be there for the collapse. So stay tuned.
It's just I have PTSD. I have legit quarterback PTSD.
And
I see this all the time.
Can't blame you for having
it. It is the exact same feeling too. Every single year I get it. It's of course, there it is. I work myself up in the head. Bears are going to actually have an offense. Bears are going to be good, and then
the rug gets pulled right out from underneath.
I'm glad they played the Colts this week because the Colts defense is bad, and so I think this could be a nice little
the Colts
gain some confidence.
Yeah,
nice gain some confidence game. So 1-1 through week 2. The schedule is exactly when I went through the schedule, I had win versus Titans and the loss versus Texans. So we're still on pace. So
there you go. And then how about that debacle last night in Philadelphia where the Falcons drive down the field with a minute something left. Kirk Cousins drives down the field and wins the football game for the Atlanta Falcons. They beat the Eagles 22-21. and Eagles fans want to fire their head coach, even though he drew up a perfect play and their running back they spent millions of dollars on this offseason ate too much popcorn and dropped the football.
Yeah, this is what I'd say to the fan. People blaming Sirianni. I don't like Sirianni. I'm not a big fan of him. I think he's a douche, and I think he does make some weird, questionable decisions. I'm with him on this one. If you were to pause right when Jalen Hurts was throwing the ball to Saquon and let the whole world see, they'd be like, "Oh, what a great play design!" It's just the second that ball got dropped, it's what a terrible play call. So I'm with Sirianni. You take that opportunity 100 out of 100 times. You take that opportunity every chance you get it. I had my worst gambling weekend ever, Preston. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I bet 12 games and I went like 4-8, like college and NFL. And I was just like, screw it. I saw what all the public money, 80%, 86% of the public money came out on the Eagles. And I saw that yesterday. I said, screw it. I doubled or nothing.
Eagles?
Not almost. I was still down whenever this morning rolled around. But I pretty much almost doubled or nothing on the Falcons plus 5.5.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it went to 6 with 1:45, and I'm sitting there mother effing Kirk Cousins in my living room, and my roommate's on the bet with me. He's like, "It's fine, it's fine. Like, we got the ball back. We're gonna go down and score here." I'm like, "It's Kirk bleeping Cousins. He's not gonna do crap." And then, sure enough, it was just the most beautiful drive I've ever seen in my life. Just perfect, right down the field, like it was nothing. And I watched back the Manning cast. I saw it on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, that was
great
awesome.
And then Peyton Manning was just talking about, he's like, every time I got in a new offense, the 2-minute drill was the easiest because you're just not thinking. You're just playing basic, fundamental football.
Like the plays everyone knows. Yeah.
And that's what happened last night. So, I mean, big win for the Falcons, bad loss for the Eagles. And that's a top 3 gambling moment of my life, was that touchdown, because it wasn't just that my money needed it, because I don't gamble out of my needs. Like, when I gamble, I can afford to lose, but just the soul of like being a gambler and like needing that,
sniff one out and you
and
win
like
it,
I was depressed about how my weekend went with sports gambling. And then like that happened, and then so it was. I needed it, and I'm all the way back in, and I can't wait for Thursday.
Yeah, my biggest one was betting Jalen Hurts' first touchdown score in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and I nailed it right on the head. And I was like, that just feels amazing.
Yeah.
So nice. There with.
What were the odds on that one?
I don't remember, but I think I might have bet like a couple bucks, and I won like $50 off of it. So
yeah, like a little $3 bet to win like 50.
And I was like, yeah, sure, Jalen Hurts is gonna be the first touchdown score, and nailed it right on the head. And I was like, perfect.
The first bet I ever placed was my sophomore year of college, and it was a Florida State. I was Florida State for somebody. I don't remember who it was, but I bet Florida State to win between 5 and 9 points at like 4-1 odds, and I won. Yeah. I was like, this is the best thing ever.
That's how they get you, man. That's how they get you. I also needed Mike Evans to get 5 more yards this week, and I would have hit a parlay. And he hit a slant route on a 3rd down to pick up a first down to ice that game, and the defender got his hand in there, and I was like, dang it. But move on to next week. We will rebuild. Anything else before we get out of here? Big weekend of football, so stick with us Thursday. We're not recap, but we'll preview NFL and get more into Oklahoma, Tennessee, and then Oklahoma State, Utah. So, but you got anything else tonight?
I'm ready. I'm stoked. Like, I am one of the most excited I've been for a football weekend in my life.
Yeah, for sure. If you have any fantasy football questions, get in the chat on Thursday as well. We'll talk a little fantasy football as well as we head into another great weekend of football. But that's going to do it for us. Preston Poole, Tyler Adams. Follow us on Twitter at Preston Poole 405, at Tyler's Takes. The pod account is at UNADVISED Pod. We will talk to you guys on Thursday.